Informative sources: The Week India, January 19, 2026. Reuters reporting, January 19, 2026. Business Standard, January 19, 2026. The Federal India, January 19, 2026. White House official statements, January 18, 2026. Middle East Eye, January 18, 2026. Outlook India, January 19, 2026. Before we dive into this groundbreaking story, hit that subscribe button and smash the like icon. This is breaking news that could reshape Middle East peace efforts. A letter arrived in New Delhi on January 16th. Not just any letter. A personal invitation from President Donald Trump to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The subject? A new international body called the Board of Peace. The mission? Nothing less than resolving the Gaza conflict and potentially other global conflicts. The timing is extraordinary. Trump unveiled this initiative as part of the second phase of his 20-point Gaza peace plan. The plan aims to transform Gaza into what the White House calls a de-radicalized, terror-free zone, a place that no longer threatens its neighbors, a region ready for reconstruction and development after nearly 2 years of devastating war between Israel and Hamas. But here's where it gets interesting, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Hit that like button to help this critical information reach more people. India isn't alone in receiving this invitation. Trump has reached out to approximately 60 countries. Pakistan confirmed it received an invitation too. Turkey's President Erdogan, Egypt's President El-Sisi, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, leaders from France, Germany, Australia, Canada. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban has already accepted. Jordan, Greece, Cyprus, Paraguay, Argentina, Albania. The list keeps growing. The structure of this Board of Peace reveals Trump's ambitious vision. At the top sits a main board permanently chaired by Trump himself. Below that, a founding executive council with heavy hitters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Trump's special envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, World Bank President Ajay Banga, Mark Rowan, CEO of Apollo Global Management, Robert Greenway, a former National Security Council official. The third tier is a Palestinian technocratic committee called the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, led by Ali Shath, a Gaza-born engineer and former Palestinian Authority official. This group met for the first time in Cairo on Friday. Their immediate focus? Shelter and essential services. Shath estimates reconstruction could take about 3 years. But wait, there's a controversial catch. Make sure you've liked this video because what I'm about to tell you shocked even seasoned diplomats. According to a draft charter obtained by Reuters and first reported by Bloomberg, countries wanting to extend their membership beyond 3 years must contribute $1 billion in cash. Yes, $1 billion with a B. The document states that this requirement doesn't apply to countries that make this massive contribution within the first year. The White House defends this by saying it ensures member states demonstrate deep commitment to peace, security, and prosperity. Critics have raised immediate concerns. Is Trump building a rival to the United Nations? The Middle East Eye reported that the proposal raises questions about accountability and overlap with existing multilateral institutions. Some see it as an attempt to bypass established international frameworks. Others question whether wealthy nations will essentially buy permanent seats on this board. For India, this invitation comes at a delicate moment. New Delhi has carefully balanced its relationships in the Middle East. India maintains a strategic partnership with Israel while being among the first nations to send humanitarian aid to Gaza after the conflict began. India sent relief supplies through Egypt, providing assistance to thousands of affected civilians. This balanced approach has earned India credibility with both sides. Yet India's relationship with Washington faces its own tensions right now. Trade negotiations have stalled. Indian exports to the United States currently face tariffs of up to 50%, among the highest in the world. No trade deal has been secured to lower these tariffs. Some analysts wonder if this Board of Peace invitation is partly designed to smooth over these economic tensions. Subscribe now if you want to stay updated on how India responds to this historic invitation. The Indian Foreign Ministry hasn't issued an official response yet. They're likely weighing multiple factors. What would joining mean for India's carefully cultivated relationships across the Middle East? Would participation give India more influence in shaping Gaza's future? Or would it drag New Delhi into the messy politics of Israeli-Palestinian relations in ways that could backfire? Pakistan's situation adds another layer of complexity. Islamabad has been invited too. Pakistan has consistently advocated for Palestinian rights at the United Nations and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. They've called for an immediate ceasefire, humanitarian access, and a two-state solution. But here's the problem. Israel has made it crystal clear it will not accept any involvement from Pakistan in Gaza. How will this contradiction be resolved? Trump's letter to Modi contained language designed to appeal to India's global ambitions. According to U.S. Ambassador Sergio Gore, who shared the letter on social media, Trump wrote that it would be his great honor to invite Modi to join a critically historic and magnificent effort to solidify peace in the Middle East and embark on a bold new approach to resolving global conflict. That phrase is key. Resolving global conflict. Not just Gaza. Trump sent a similar letter to Argentine President Javier Milei making the same point. The Board of Peace may start with Gaza, but Trump envisions it handling other international disputes. This could be an attempt to create a new global security architecture centered on Washington rather than Geneva or New York. The 20-point plan itself is ambitious. Beyond making Gaza terror-free, it calls for rebuilding the territory for the benefit of its people. The board would mobilize international resources, provide strategic oversight, ensure accountability during Gaza's transition from conflict to peace and development. The UN Security Council endorsed this vision through Resolution 2803 last November. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more analysis on global developments. But many questions remain unanswered. Who decides which countries get to join? What happens if board members disagree with Trump's decisions? He's named as permanent chairman. Does that mean this board continues even after Trump leaves office? How will it coordinate with existing institutions like the United Nations, the Arab League, or the African Union? Will developing countries without billions to contribute be relegated to temporary membership while wealthy nations buy permanent seats? Palestinian reactions have been mixed. The Technocratic Committee, led by Ali Shaath, appears willing to work within this framework. Speaking after Friday's meeting in Cairo, Shaath said the people were waiting for this committee and its work to rescue them. The focus on practical reconstruction rather than political ideology appeals to many ordinary Gazans exhausted by war. However, other Palestinian factions remain skeptical. They see this as an American-led initiative that may not fully represent Palestinian aspirations for statehood and self-determination. Questions about who will ultimately control Gaza's governance loom large. Israel has also expressed concerns. Despite being closely aligned with Trump, Israeli officials have reportedly objected to aspects of the oversight plan. They worry about policy differences with the international community on long-term security arrangements in Gaza. Regional powers like Egypt and Saudi Arabia will play crucial roles. Egypt has already hosted the first Palestinian Technocratic Committee meeting. Cairo has long been a mediator in Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. Saudi Arabia's participation could bring substantial funding and regional legitimacy. But Riyadh has historically linked normalizing relations with Israel to progress on Palestinian statehood. Will the Saudis accept a reconstruction plan that doesn't clearly pave the way for a Palestinian state? European leaders face their own dilemma. Many received invitations, including von der Leyen, France, and Germany. But Europe is currently in a trade war with Trump over Greenland. Just this past weekend, Trump threatened tariffs on 8 European nations unless they support U.S. acquisition of Greenland. How can European leaders justify joining Trump's peace initiative while he's economically coercing them on another issue? If you're finding this analysis valuable, please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. The financial requirements also raise eyebrows. $1 billion is an enormous sum. Countries contributing that amount in the first year get permanent membership. But many developing nations that might have valuable perspectives on peace and development simply cannot afford such contributions. This creates a system where wealth determines influence, regardless of expertise or moral authority. India's decision will be watched closely across the global south. As the world's most populous democracy and a rising economic power, India's choice could influence other nations. If India joins, it might encourage other developing countries to participate. If India declines, it could signal that the Global South sees this as a Western-dominated initiative not worth joining. The invitation also tests India's strategic autonomy. New Delhi has prided itself on maintaining independent foreign policy, not aligning too closely with any single power, balancing East and West. Joining Trump's board could be seen as tilting toward Washington. Declining could strain already tense U.S.-India relations further. Historically, India has supported Palestinian statehood while avoiding getting too deeply involved in Middle Eastern conflicts. This careful distance has served India well. It allowed New Delhi to develop strong security ties with Israel, particularly in defense and technology, while maintaining traditional support for Palestinian rights. Joining the Board of Peace might force India to take clearer positions on contentious issues. The timing of Trump's outreach is also significant. He sent the letter on January 16th, just days after announcing the board's executive committee. This suggests Trump wants to build momentum quickly, get major powers committed before opposition can organize, create facts on the ground that become hard to reverse. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for ongoing coverage of this developing story. Some geopolitical analysts see this as Trump's attempt to reshape the international order. For decades, the United Nations has been the primary forum for addressing conflicts like Gaza. The UN Security Council, despite its flaws, brought together permanent members with veto power. Trump's board bypasses that structure entirely. It's accountable only to Trump as permanent chairman. No vetoes, no General Assembly, no International Court of Justice oversight. Others view it more pragmatically. The UN has struggled for decades to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Maybe a new approach led by the world's most powerful country with buy-in from major regional players could succeed where the UN failed. Reconstruction requires massive capital, private sector involvement, swift decision-making. The traditional UN system wasn't built for that kind of rapid response. The board's executive committee composition is revealing. Tony Blair brings experience from his time as special envoy for the Quartet on the Middle East. Jared Kushner worked on Trump's first-term Abraham Accords. A.J. Banga at the World Bank controls vast development resources. Mark Rowan from Apollo Global Management represents private capital. This is a blend of diplomacy, finance, and business, unlike typical UN peacekeeping structures. But it also raises questions about conflicts of interest. Will board members use their positions to benefit their businesses? How will transparency be ensured? Who audits the billion-dollar contributions? What safeguards exist against corruption in distributing reconstruction funds? The Palestinian Technocratic Committee is supposed to handle day-to-day governance during transition. But transition to what? The plan speaks of making Gaza terror-free and not a threat to neighbors. That language is deliberately vague. Does it mean Israel retains security control? Will Gaza ever become part of a Palestinian state? Or is this a permanent separate status? Ali Shat's leadership of the Technocratic Committee is both promising and problematic. He's Palestinian, he's from Gaza, he has government experience, but he's also associated with the Palestinian Authority, which Hamas violently expelled from Gaza in 2007. Will ordinary Gazans who lived under Hamas rule for 17 years accept PA-affiliated leadership? Or will this spark new internal Palestinian conflicts? Turkey's potential participation adds another dynamic. Erdogan has been one of the most vocal supporters of Hamas and critic of Israel. Yet Turkey is also a NATO member and has economic ties with the West. If Erdogan joins, it could give the board more credibility in the Muslim world. But it might also create constant friction with Israel and complicate decision-making. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next update on India's decision. The next few weeks will be critical. India's government must decide. Will Modi accept Trump's invitation? Will he negotiate conditions for India's participation? Or will he politely decline, citing India's traditional non-aligned stance? Each option carries risks and opportunities. If India joins, New Delhi could shape how reconstruction happens, push for Palestinian self-determination, ensure humanitarian needs are met, use its position to balance American and Israeli interests with broader international law and justice. India's voice could represent the global South's perspective in ways that Europe or wealthy Arab states cannot. If India declines, it preserves strategic autonomy, but potentially loses influence over Gaza's future. Other countries might fill the vacuum India leaves. Pakistan's participation without India could tilt the board's narrative in ways unfavorable to Indian interests. Trump might view India's refusal as another sign of deteriorating bilateral relations, compounding trade tensions. A third option exists. India could seek observer status or conditional participation, joining but clearly stating principles India won't compromise. Making financial contributions but far less than $1 billion to avoid permanent seat obligations. This middle path fits India's diplomatic tradition, but might leave New Delhi with responsibility but insufficient influence. The broader question looms over everything. Can Trump's Board of Peace actually work? Bringing together 60 countries with different interests, religions, political systems, and historical grievances is monumentally difficult. The United Nations tries to do this and often fails despite decades of practice and established procedures. Trump's board has no track record, no established rules beyond the draft charter, no clear dispute resolution mechanisms. Success would require unprecedented cooperation. Israel must accept international oversight it has historically resisted. Arab states must engage constructively with Israel. The Palestinian Authority must work with international administrators. Hamas must stay defeated and disarmed. Regional powers like Iran must not interfere. And all 60 invited countries must put aside their differences to focus on Gaza's reconstruction. That's an enormous ask. Yet the alternative is continued suffering in Gaza. 2 years of war have devastated infrastructure, hundreds of thousands displaced, economic collapse, humanitarian crisis. If Trump's board can mobilize the capital and political will to rebuild, it might justify its existence, regardless of structural flaws. Before we wrap up, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more international news analysis. India's role in this remains the key question for viewers of this channel. What should Modi do? The answer isn't simple. India benefits from stable Middle East. Indian workers send remittances from Gulf states. India imports significant energy from the region. Instability there affects India directly, so India has interests in Gaza's successful reconstruction. But India also values its independence, its ability to work with all sides, its reputation as a responsible power that doesn't impose solutions. Joining a Trump-led initiative that bypasses the UN could damage that reputation, especially if the board's decisions become controversial or if its finances prove opaque. The coming days will reveal India's choice. Other countries will announce their decisions too. The shape of Trump's Board of Peace will become clearer. Whether it represents a bold new approach to conflict resolution or an expensive distraction from real solutions will eventually be determined by results on the ground in Gaza. For now, we watch and wait. The invitation has been extended. The stakes are clear. The Middle East holds its breath. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. Drop a comment below telling me what you think India should do. Should Modi join Trump's Board of Peace, or should India stay independent? Let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next video with updates on this developing story.